Sits in a jail cell. He is back in Idaho, accused of killing young Michael Vaughan.
You're pure evil. You have no heart. You have no soul.
Wondra is accused of murdering her then 5-year-old son in 2021. Would you think you'll ever get the answer as to why?
No, because there is no answer to why. Why would somebody hurt an innocent little boy? What answer could you give? What answer could you possibly give? How scared was he? Did he ask for me? Did he ask for Tyler?
Stacey Wondra has been charged with first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping and destruction of evidence.
Michael "Monkey" Vaughan went missing from his Fruitland neighborhood on July 27, 2021.
This is a criminal investigation.
Now, more than 4 years later, in newly unsealed court documents, Fruitland police named 4 people they believed are involved in Michael's murder. Those 4 names are ones we've heard before.
This is Sarah Wondra. This is Sarah's husband, Stacey Wondra. This is Brandon Shirtliff, Adrian Lucian.
As for what these 4 people have in common, they were all staying at the Wondras' home when Michael disappeared in 2021. That's just half a mile from Michael's home where he was last seen. In the PCA, police pointed to video evidence they say showing Shirtliff walking around the neighborhood. They say Shirtliff helped move Michael's body in a duffel bag temporarily to his mom's home in Kuna before standing guard as they buried him in the Wondras' Fruitland backyard. Stacey Wondra told police the 4 hoped to sell Michael for $10,000 each. He says the idea came from Adrian Lucian. Idaho News 6 is now learning Lucian was arrested and released in Indiana in October for a traffic-related misdemeanor. Sarah Wondra is currently serving time in the Idaho State Prison System for unrelated charges. She's eligible for parole in early 2026.
Karen, is there any connection between the Vaughan family and the home where police had been searching?
No, we've heard this more than once from the family representatives and from the police department that there is no connection between the Vaughan family and the home where this search took place.
As you know, from the time Michael went missing, this has been an all-hands-on-deck investigation, and it remains very active and an ongoing investigation. You can't take one of our most precious citizens from us and ever expect us to stop. During the course of this investigation to date, we received credible information that the remains of Michael Vaughan could be found in the backyard at 1102 Red Wing Street in Fruitland. As a result, the Fruitland Police Department obtained a search warrant for the residence along with the front and backyards. That search warrant was served on November 11th. It was a Friday. We served that late in the evening. Upon entry, officers encountered Sarah Wondra, one of the known occupants of the home, and Sarah was subsequently arrested based on probable cause that she had knowledge of Michael's death and failed to report that death to law enforcement. The following day, the Fruitland Police Department, joined by the Idaho State Police, the Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue, the Fruitland Fire Department, and the Fruitland Public Works Department, began a very methodical excavation of the backyard of the Wondras' home. During that excavation process, the Idaho Mountain Search and Rescue, Mountain States detection dogs deployed multiple certified human remains detection dogs on the property, all of them alerting to the presence of human remains. Ground penetrating radar was also used and deployed, detecting anomalies in the backyard. We completed the excavation of the entire backyard and removed over 250 yards of dirt. Prior to backfilling the yard, the dirt was meticulously sifted for any potential human remains. We did not find Michael's remains. Although the remains of Michael Vaughan were not recovered, we strongly believe, based on evidence, that Michael was abducted and is deceased, and that his remains were buried and later moved from the property. As of today, the whereabouts of his remains are unknown. However, the investigation is active, fluid, and ongoing. Once the excavation was complete, we conducted a thorough search of the Wondras' residence. The search was productive, and additional investigative evidence was recovered and is currently being processed.
An hour's worth of body camera footage showing Stacey Wondra FaceTiming with detectives and directing to where Monkey's body was buried in his backyard.
It's like right under that mound area.
It's right under the mound, about where at compared to the
trees?
A little, like, right to the right of the trees area. It should be, it should be a garbage bag.
Okay, what color is the garbage bag?
It would either be white or black. We only had two colors.
Is the duct tape still going to be over his mouth?
It should be.
Okay.
I didn't watch take them off.
Okay.
So you should have everything intact as it was.
He claims he watched the burial happen.
Okay. How far down is Michael?
I don't know how far she actually dug.
And the she he's referring to, that's his wife Sarah, another suspect in the case. Stacey says Adrian, a third suspect, was also there for the burial.
Out of 300 homes, police say canines tracked Michael's scent to the home where Stacey, his wife Sarah, and their two roommates Brandon Shurtleff and Adrian Lucian lived.
As Joe mentioned, a newly released probable cause affidavit filed in June lays out the interviews following Michael's disappearance. Again, during these initial searches, police say canines tracked Michael's scent to the fence line of the home where Stacey Wondra, his wife Sarah, and their two roommates, Brandon Shurtleff and Adrian Lucian, lived. All four of those individuals have been named people of interest in Michael's disappearance. One of Michael's neighbors told police they saw Michael riding a bike outside of the Wondras' home the day that he disappeared. Another neighbor said they saw that same tricycle at the Wondras' home during a garage sale months before Michael disappeared. The Wondras initially denied any involvement, but then in November of 2022, Stacey asked to meet with investigators. The PCA states Stacey claims he was home the night Michael was allegedly abducted and saw Sarah carrying Michael into the house. Stacey allegedly told police it was Adrian's idea to take a child to sell for money, and they would get a $10,000 cut. Stacey claims Sarah told everyone to, quote, follow her lead. Stacey told investigators they took him to Brandon's mother's home in Kuna that night, where they left Michael overnight. Stacey claims the other three returned to Brandon's mom's house the next day and brought Michael back to the Wanderers' home in Fruitland. Stacey told police Michael was not alive, and Sarah and Adrian buried him in the Wanderers' backyard. 2 days after Stacey's interview with police, they executed a search warrant and excavated the Wanderers' backyard. The affidavit says cadaver dogs alerted to the same area where Stacey told detectives Michael's body was buried, but to this day, Michael has not been found.
Hello, today is June 24th, 2026. It is Michael Joseph Vaughan's 10th birthday. My name is Samantha. Welcome into Missing PNW Crimes Revisited. I appreciate you all being here today to talk about Monkey and to go over some documents that we got. The documents are Amended Memorandum in support of the defendant's motion to dismiss for lack of probable cause pursuant the Idaho Code 19-815A. I just wanted to say hi to everybody real quick. Ashley Higgins is in the house. Missing persons around the world. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming in. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes, for being here and supporting me, supporting the Vaughan family, and supporting Michael. ICU is here. Good to see you, love. Thank you so much for coming in. All my beautiful moderators. Hello, Darlene. Good to see you. McSporn is also here. Let's see. We've got Josie in the house. Pretty Assessor. Good to see you. All in the Tanks is here. Deedles 183 is also here. Thank you guys so much, and welcome anybody that's new to Monkey's case, which is Michael Joseph Vaughan. Monkey is his beloved nickname, so you'll hear us calling him Monkey quite a bit. I just want to welcome everybody because we have been getting a lot of new awareness for Michael, a lot of new people learning about Michael's case. And if you want to continue to learn the facts, this is a great place to be. Let's see who else is here. I appreciate all of the moderators for coming in. You guys are amazing. I see Shannon also here. Thank you for coming. Chaos Mama is in the house. Sometimes mistakenly known for Brandy, but Brandy and the Vaughan family are on a camping trip. Tara is also here. Thank you so much. Lynn, Brandy's sister, is here. Karen was the first one to show up. I feel like she is always first to show up and chat. I appreciate that so much. Cheesy Mary is here. Thank you very much for being here. My heart is heavy today. I will admit it. The Vaughan family is on a camping trip, and hello, Minky. And, you know, they went to go do what Monkey loves to do, which is being out in the outdoors. I'm hoping that they're having a good time. I know today is very hard for them. They've had a very difficult time the last couple of weeks leading up to Michael's 10th birthday. Michael Vaughan was only 5 years old when he was abducted. On July 27th, 2021. We're hitting that 5-year mark since Michael was abducted and murdered. There are 4 named suspects in Michael's case: Stacey Wondra, Sarah Wondra, Adrian Lucien, and Brandon Shirtliff. Stacey Wondra is waiting for trial. His attorneys recently filed for a dismissal. And from what I'm reading in these court documents, he isn't really arguing with the fact that there was destruction of evidence. They just want the kidnapping and the murder charges to be dropped. Sarah Wondra will face charges October 26th after she's released from custody in prison. And we will be here doing the same thing we're doing with Stacey Wondra, which is going over court documents and all of the hearings to come for her. Adrian Lucien and Sarah Wondra got together and decided that, you know, why don't we kidnap a child? Adrian Lucien came up with the idea to sell the child for $10,000. Brandon Shirtliff knows exactly where Michael Vaughan is now, in an unknown location after Michael's body being moved from the Wondra's backyard. And I just want to talk to these suspects for just a second, because this affidavit, or this amended court document that we're going to read, takes Stacey completely out of the picture and puts all blame on Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon. So if you guys are listening, TikTok, it's time for you guys to start talking. Otherwise, Stacey Wondra could testify in court against you all. If anybody has any information about Michael's abduction, if you heard anything, even if you think it's a rumor, please call the tip line 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. No tip is too big or too small. Let law enforcement decide whether or not your tip is credible. If you're feeling like your information is heavy on your heart, then you really should be Monkey's hero, be the Vaughan family hero, and call that tip line 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. There is a reward over $50,000. Any information leading to the whereabouts of Michael Joseph Vaughan And you can always remain anonymous. I would not blame you for wanting to make an anonymous tip because these 4 suspects are dangerous. Again, that tip line phone number is 208-642-6006, or you can email findmichael@fruitland.org. I just want to play a few videos. Michael Joseph Vaughan was born June 24th of 2016. Oh my goodness, look at that beautiful, beautiful face. There's Tyler and Brandy in the hospital on the day that he was born. They were so happy. So happy. I'm just really feeling the weight and the heartache the Vaughns are feeling today. Michael Monkey Vaughan would be 10 years old today. He's loved, he's missed, and his memory is alive. His memory is alive with his family in the Vaughan home that they still live in, where Michael was abducted from. And his memory is alive in all of us because Michael has touched all of our hearts, and he has reached people around the world. Michael has such a beautiful, amazing smile and the biggest blue eyes. His laugh was contagious, and his personality can be described as loving and curious. Michael loved the outdoors, camping, searching for rocks, playing in the mud, looking at the stars and the moon, walking trails, and finding all kinds of critters to play with, insects, salamanders, frogs, you name it. Michael loved the outdoors. He also loved monster trucks, Hot Wheels, playing video games, cooking with his mama, playing with his siblings, reading books with his father, and doing anything he could with his papa. The Vaughns have missed out on 5 birthdays, Christmases, Easters, Halloween, Thanksgivings, waking up to those morning snuggles and kisses, missing out on good night loves, and missing out on the sound of Michael's voice throughout the house for over 5 years. Michael is in heaven. He's sitting in the arms of God, Jesus, the angels, whatever you believe in. He's sitting in the clouds and he's watching over his family, and he's waiting for justice to be served. Brandy Vaughan, Monkey's mama, made a pinky promise to bring him home and fight for justice until all the suspects are arrested and sitting in jail. I know for a fact that Brandy will never break that promise to Monkey. They have messed around with the wrong mama bear. We stand with Brandy and the family here at Missing PNW in the fight for justice, and we'll never stop. We'll never go away. We are Monkey's Army. We are strong, and we're stronger and stronger every single day. Brandy, Tyler, the family, we love you. We're thinking about you. We're praying for you today. Our hearts are with you. We're so sorry that this happened to your family. I love Michael like I know him. Just like all of us that have been following this case for the past 5 years. Such an amazing little boy taken too soon. Monsters are real. They live, they exist, and the Vaughan family has seen it firsthand. Oh, I want to get through today without tears. I really do, but my heart is super heavy. His best friend was Little Buggy. He loved dancing and singing with Pidge, playing video games with Bubba. All of the things. Such a beautiful, happy family that he had, and he had an amazing life in the short 5 years that he was here with us, that he was here with the Vaughan family. We love you, Michael. And we know you're watching us. We know you're watching your family. I wanted to share some videos today and show you the new area that Brandy and Tyler found to search for gold. I took some videos down from her Facebook page that she posted here recently, and I just want to share this with you.
Well, this is going to be a fun spot.
Wow, look, there's a giant log so we can go in there.
Yeah.
There's so much more. Wow.
Oh, boy. I think we found a new spot. What do you think? Yeah. It is cold. I got it. Last video, Mama's phone's dead. Okay, you see where that black? You want to dig right in here. We want to knock that stuff. There you go.
Whoa, that was a big one too. Whoa. Daddy, we're gonna beat you.
Oh, my feet got wet, so I said screw it.
Lynn, Brandy's sister, says, we miss you every second of every day, Monkey. We wish so much that we could be celebrating your big 10th birthday with you. We love you, and we will see you again one day. I love you, Lynn. I do. I love you so, so very much. I know today is so hard for the family, and my heart and prayers are going out to you all.
There is. Where do we want to go?
I'm gonna come over there with you. This is my first driving lesson with Mommy.
You got to push the grip.
That is the camping spot where they are at now. What we just saw, beautiful, beautiful area. And Buggy got her first driving lesson last week when they went.
You gotta push the brake in. Your feet can't reach. I'll do it. And then you gotta push this button right here and pull it all the way down to the D. Okay? Ready? Okay. Okay. Put your hands on the wheel. Ready? There you go.
God, this is my first driving lesson. I'm hurting.
Careful, Bug. Watch where you're going.
Daddy,
It's gonna be slippery right there.
that's the dangerous zone. Daddy, that's the dangerous zone.
Okay, listen, Mama, don't touch.
It's such a good picture of Brandy and Tyler. Their smiles says it all. Michael has been gone for 5 years and they are trying their hardest to live life again, and it shows. And I'm so happy for them that they have been able to find some happiness. Of course, they still have their bad days. Totally normal. And I see Tyler's smile here lately, and he doesn't look so worn down. So Tyler, if you're listening, I love you. I love seeing your smiles. They're not listening now because they don't have phone service, but if you hear it later, I love you guys. This is a clip right here of Monkey cooking cookies with Brandy.
Nothing else with that hand. You can only touch with this hand, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Can I touch one?
Touch the pan. Can you feel how hot that is? Stay back from the stove.
It doesn't feel hot.
Yeah, but it'll get hot. And pick it up. Okay, stay back, stay back.
Real homemade cookies. We made real homemade.
We made real homemade cookies.
Can you touch them?
Don't touch with the other hand.
Aww. I thought I could grab one.
Not with that. You gotta let them rest.
Aww, I gotta let the cookies rest.
Yeah, because it's hot. Okay.
I'm gonna put 2 of those on, so.
Okay.
Can you put 2 of those
Put your glove on.
Okay.
Got your glove? You want me to carry it and we'll put them on the cooling pan?
Yeah, cooling pan. What's a cooling pan?
Or the cooling rack? Yeah,
What
get
the
down.
coolest can?
Okay.
Now go.
Got your glove?
Yep.
Okay.
Can you touch that?
No, don't touch the cookies. We touch the pan.
Oh.
Put their glove on. Don't touch anything else. Don't. No. There you go. All right. Look at you. Okay, we'll set it up here. Okay. We'll take our glove off and let that cool for a few minutes, okay?
No, I gotta keep my glove on so I can grab the homemade cookies. Okay?
Okay.
I need the other one on too.
You got 2 gloves? You ta-da-da. Look, I made real cookies.
And I just have to say, this is my most favorite video here. Michael's sitting with his mom outside, and he is so fascinated with the stars and the moon. And, oh, goodness. I love this video.
Now we're over there, and there, and there, and over there. I like looking at the moon. Oh, you're getting a picture of the moon?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're getting a video of the moon?
Video. You were so excited. All right. Time for bed now.
But I still want to look at some stars. How about if we do a line of a pattern with the stars and maybe we can shape something? What is that called?
Astrology.
Astrology, right. So let's do astrology. So
He's so smart. Talking about let's do a line with the stars. I just absolutely love that video. And when Brandy tells him it's time for bed, but I want to look at the stars. He's the most adorable young man. He really, really is. And this is the green card that he was given on his 5th birthday, just a month before he was abducted.
Yeah.
we wanted to say.
This is Brandy and Buggy. They made a couple of videos before they left to go on their camping trip. And these are their birthday wishes to Monkey.
Happy birthday, Monkey.
We love you, Monkey.
We love you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. We wish this weekend and be with you right now.
We miss you.
Thanks.
Happy birthday, Bubba.
Happy birthday. Love you.
Hey, Monkey Butt. Sitting here at the park. Your birthday's on Wednesday. The last birthday we got to celebrate together was here. And you got your green car. I think I am going to put the battery in it and let Buggy drive it. I think you'd appreciate that, wouldn't you? It's been put away for a really long time. I miss you, baby. Every day. I wish you were here. I will find you. We will be together again. I love you. Happy birthday, baby.
So disheartening to know that Michael would be 10 years old today. He's been missing as old as he was. He's been missing for 5 years. He was 5 years old when he was taken. I have read close to 200 and something documents today. And we're going to go over this. So basically, this document this document was put out by Stacey Wondra's attorneys. It's an amended memorandum in support of defendant's motion to dismiss for lack of probable cause pursuant the Idaho Code 19-815A. This is 32 pages long. This is what we're going over today. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of you are going to get pissed off. The way that all of this is worded, it's just, I'm mind blown, you guys. I'm mind blown that Stacey Wondra thinks he's going to get off. I know that attorneys file things because they want to prolong things. They need, more time, obviously, to look over 20,000 pages of discovery, right? But the overall picture here in this is Stacey is not a mandated reporter and didn't have to report what he witnessed. Not that he didn't do or didn't, not that it didn't all happen or that it was a lie or a false confession, but he saw it all happen and didn't do anything. So he's standing behind what he told law enforcement, that he saw Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian abduct Michael, and that Michael was accidentally killed by suffocation, and he is not taking any responsibility for anything. Nothing. Last year on Michael's birthday, I did a very loving, beautiful, looking at pictures, talking about Michael, talking about his life, the things that he loved and liked and everything else. Today I was actually going to go over a timeline, but I think I will save that for July 27th. Start at the beginning, go to the end. But when the document came in today, and I had already told Brandy, I think for Monkey's birthday, I'm going to talk about the suspects. We have to keep bringing awareness to these suspects. And God just drops a document in my lap today. So that's how this is going to go today. Not that I want to deflect away from Michael at all. Not that I don't love him or the family. But as these court documents come in, they have to be talked about because more stuff is going to be filed. More things are coming. And we need to make sure we're all caught up on everything. I'm going to play a short news clip real quick that was put out, I think, by Channel 2 in Idaho. And she pretty much sums it up. And I hope Brandon Shurtleff and Adrian Lucian are listening, because she describes, Stacey Wondra blames everybody else. He really, really does put the blame on everybody else.
The man accused in the kidnapping and death of a missing Fruitland boy, Stacey Wondra, is asking the Canyon County Court, which is now overseeing the Payette County case, to dismiss his case. Here's why. Looking at court documents, his defense attorneys suggest the magistrate court erred when finding probable cause and bringing the case to district court, saying that they didn't have evidence that Stacey Wondra was involved in kidnapping and the presumed murder of Michael Vaughan. That's the conclusion after his lawyers saying at the preliminary hearing, no physical or forensic evidence was presented. And to this day, no one has found Michael or his body, with no independent witness testifying that they know what happened. There's no evidence presented that established that Wondra had anything to do with the disappearance other than what he had told law enforcement about what he says happened to Michael. When talking to police while in jail, he blamed the murder and kidnapping of Michael Vaughan on his wife, Sarah Wondra, and his two roommates. He says it wasn't an intentional murder. He says they did kidnap him on purpose. They tied him up, put tape on him, had him in a duffel bag, and he suffocated on accident. So he's pretty much the whole time blamed it on his wife and his roommates. Michael Vaughan's been missing since July 2021, disappearing while playing outside his home there in Fruitland, the Wanderer's home, not too far in the same neighborhood. Police also checked their property, digging with cadaver dogs and pulling everything up, but they say they have yet to find Michael's body. However, they do think that there was evidence that he was killed and at some point buried, but then moved from that property. Wondra is said to be back in court in mid-July discussing the case, probably his motion as well. While the case has been moved to Canyon County, Wondra is still being held in Payette County Jail. We'll let you know what happens with this motion and everything else moving forward, as his trial is still set at this point for this fall.
He could have called 911. Yes, we do have to keep Monkey's name out there. The thing that gets me about this mandated reporter, like, he saw this but didn't do anything, so he shouldn't get in trouble because he's not this mandated reporter. He doesn't have to report what happened. Why did they charge Sarah Wondra then with not reporting the death of Michael Vaughan? Yes, those charges were dropped with prejudice, so they can still go back at her and charge her with that, right? But she's being charged for not reporting the death of Michael, but they're trying to say that he doesn't have to report a kidnapping or a murder. It doesn't make sense, especially when he's saying that he watched Sarah and Adrian bury him in the backyard while Brandon Shurtleff was standing guard. Yeah, that is in these documents that we are about to go over. And I'm just disgusted. The wording of this attorney pisses me off. And yeah, we're going to start it right now. It doesn't, clever phase, it really doesn't make any sense. And yes, thank you, Deedles, for bringing this up. Stacey is a liar, a monster, in my opinion. He saw it and didn't do anything. He is evil. Stacey Wondra is a liar. How do we know what he even said to law enforcement is true? Do anybody put a 1 in chat if you think Stacey Wondra didn't just sit back and watch, that he was actually involved in everything? Put a 1 in chat if you believe he was involved in it all. Because Stacey Wondra is a liar. He is a manipulator. And he is trying to deflect away, saying that he didn't do anything. He didn't kidnap him. He didn't murder him, suffocate him, whatever you want to say. And trigger warning for everybody, because we are going to be reading court documents, 33 pages of it. And there are going to be a lot of details. And it's heartbreaking to hear, but this is what's came out. See, so many people believe that Stacey Wondra had something else to do with what he's actually saying. And I 100% believe that Stacey Wondra wasn't just hiding in the bedroom. I believe that he was involved, if not helped Sarah or Brandon or whomever kidnap Michael. But that's not what Stacey Wondra is saying in court. He's blaming everybody else. And this, not taking the destruction of evidence out, well, that's admitting to the destruction of evidence, right? And if you got rid of the evidence, the physical evidence that would have shown the forensic evidence in this case, then you participated in some way, shape, or form, because why would you be trying to destroy that evidence, physical evidence that the police could have used against Stacey Wondra? Messages back and forth to people, I'm assuming on their phones, since they sold so many phones, got rid of phones, and he admitted to destroying SIM cards. Why? What was on those phones? Stacey Wondra isn't innocent in this. He knows it. We know it. The world knows it. The Vaughan family knows it. And Mike Duke, the district attorney in the state of Idaho, know it too. And they're not worried about this. They are not worried about this. So, again, thank you all for being here. Callie, it's great to see you here. Moderators, we did have some trolls coming in yesterday, so please keep an eye on chat as I share my screen. I don't have fancy smanchy 2 computers to keep an eye on chat, and I am going to be reading, so please keep a close eye for the trolls. So let me just pull up the docs. Make sure everybody can see this in here. Yes, you can. All right. 532 pages is what this is. And I'm going over. So this is the amended memorandum. This is the latest. They had already filed something, but then they amended it. So this is the latest version. Now the rest of these, 500 pages, because of the things that they are saying happened at the preliminary hearing, they had to add all of the transcripts from 3 days of the preliminary hearing, which took up a lot of paperwork. So we're going over the most important part, which is what the defense is saying, why they need to dismiss the first-degree murder charges, second-degree kidnapping for lack of probable cause. So let's get started. The state and public defender are the people who put this out in the district court of the 3rd Judicial District of the state of Idaho. Idaho is the plaintiff. Stacey Wondra is defendant. Amended memorandum in support of defendant motion to dismiss for lack of probable cause pursuant to Idaho Code 19-815A. Comes now the defendant, Stacey James Wondra, by and through his attorneys of record, Anthony Geddes, Isaiah Abbey of the Idaho State Police Defender, and hereby moves this honorable court for an order pursuant to Idaho Code 19-815A, dismissing the information on the grounds that the magistrate court held the defendant to answer without reasonable or probable cause to believe that the defendant has committed the crime for which he is being held to answer. Defendant respectfully submits this motion and brief in support of motion. Statement of the case. Nature of the case. Stacey Wondra has been charged with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, and destruction of evidence in the disappearance and presumed murder of Michael Vaughan. Presumed murder. They don't want to even admit, or, we even know that this defense attorney already said in court, we don't even know if Michael is dead because we have no body. So you're going to hear presumed murder a lot in these case files. The magistrate court bound the case over to the district court following a 3-day contested preliminary hearing. Mr. Wondra asserts that probable cause did not exist for the court to find that he committed the crimes of first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping, where the only evidence permitted by the state at the preliminary hearing were hours of interviews over 3 separate days between law enforcement and Mr. Wondra. So see right there, first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping. They're not talking about destruction of evidence. And they're saying that all the state provided was interviews instead of saying confessions by Stacey Wondra. Interviews. Yes, it was an interview of Stacey Wondra confessing what happened. During these interviews, Mr. Wondra speculated at the urging of the Fruitland Police Department as to what must have happened based on what he saw other people doing. Not that he participated, not that he did anything. What he said he saw other people doing. Statement of the facts and course of proceedings. On July 27, 2021, Michael Vaughan, a 5-year-old boy living in Fruitland, Idaho, went missing and was never found. After an intensive search involving multiple agencies and utilizing exhaustive resources, law enforcement began focusing on Stacey and Sarah Wondra, who rented a home in a subdivision within half a mile of Michael Vaughan's home. On August 2nd and 3rd, a live scent canine unit searched the surrounding neighborhoods and reportedly showed interest in one house located on 1102 Red Wing in Fruitland. This was the home of Stacey and Sarah Wondra. The scent dog, Banshee, showed interest at the Wondra's house out of 300 houses in that entire neighborhood. Cell phone tower data and surveillance footage established that Mr. Wondra and Sarah Wondra were in the neighborhood at the time of Michael's disappearance. It was also discovered that Stacey and Sarah had 2 house guests, Brandon Shurtleff and Adrian Lucian. On November 5th of 2022, Mr. Wondra contacted the Fruitland Police Department from the Washington County Jail, where he was incarcerated on federal charges, and requested that they come speak with him. Stacey Wondra called police to come talk to him. He wanted to talk to them. He wanted to tell them what he knew about Michael's case. He also requested to speak with detectives on November 10th of 2022, at which time he requested the same deal that was offered to Sarah. During the course of several hours of interviews that Mr. Wondra had with law enforcement, he made numerous statements regarding what he saw Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian doing, including Sarah bringing Michael into their home. Again, trigger warning in chat, please. Please protect your mental health. The details are disturbing. Including Sarah bringing Michael into their home, taping him up with duct tape, putting him into a duffel bag for transport, and placing the duffel bag in the back of their GMC truck in order to transport Michael to Brandon's mother's house in Kuna, Idaho. Mr. Wondra told law enforcement that Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian returned to Kuna the next day to discover that Michael had died. They brought the body back to the 1102 Red Wing house in Fruitland, where Sarah and Adrian dug a hole in the backyard and buried Michael while Brandon stood guard. Adrian, Brandon, are you guys hearing this? Adrian, you dug a hole. Brandon, Stacey's saying that you stood guard. I remember in another statement by Stacey Wondra that he says you weren't there. But now he is saying you stood guard while Sarah and Adrian buried Michael Vaughan. On November 12, 2022, a search warrant was executed on the Wondra's residence. The entire backyard was excavated in an effort to locate Michael's body. No human remains were located, nor any evidence linking Michael to 1102 Red Wing. That statement right there pisses me off. Why am I forgetting his name? Why am I forgetting his name? Callie, help me. J.D. Huff. I'm so sorry, guys. J.D. Huff said they believe that Michael was buried in that backyard. He also said in his statement during that press conference, you know, when he's got all their pictures up and who the suspects are, that evidence was collected from the Wondras' home. So this right here, no human remains were located, nor any evidence linking Michael to 1102 Red Wing. J.D. Huff says that there was evidence, just a FYI. On June 25th, 2025, a criminal complaint was filed charging Mr. Wondra with first-degree murder, second-degree kidnapping, felony destruction of evidence, and the persistent violator in relation to the disappearance and presumed murder, there it is again, presumed murder of Michael Vaughan. Mr. Wondra, who was incarcerated on other unrelated charges, was not immediately arraigned on the criminal complaint. He was brought before the court and counsel was appointed on November 17th, 2025. He contested preliminary hearing was held. A contested preliminary hearing was held March 3rd through the 6th of 2026. At the preliminary hearing, no physical or forensic evidence was presented. Like I've said before, you cannot have forensic evidence if there was no physical evidence, and we know that Stacey Wondra and the rest of them got rid of as much evidence as they possibly could. To this day, Michael has never been found, and no independent witnesses testified that they claim to have known what happened to him. No evidence was presented and that established that Mr. Wondra had anything to do with Michael's disappearance, other than his own statements to law enforcement regarding what he saw Sarah Wondra, Brandon Shurtleff, and Adrian Lucian doing. No evidence. Like he's seen in the GMC truck going to CUNA. I can't with all this, y'all. On March 5th, 2026, during the preliminary hearing, the state amended the complaint in count 1 by removing premeditation and focusing solely on the alternative felony murder theory. Despite no evidence being presented that Mr. Wondra was involved in Michael's disappearance and presumed murder, the magistrate court bound the case over to the district court. District court arraignment occurred April 3rd, 2026, at which time a not guilty plea was entered and Mr. Wondra requested the case be set for a speedy trial. The issue the defense is saying and the question that he's asking the court, did the magistrate court err when it found probable cause and bound the case over to district court without evidence that Mr. Wondra was involved in the kidnapping and presumed murder of Michael Vaughan? The argument. The magistrate court erred when it bound the case over to the district court without evidence that Mr. Wondra had any involvement in the alleged kidnapping and presumed murder of Michael Vaughan. A. Introduction. Mr. Wondra asserts that the magistrate court erred in denying his motion to dismiss the state's case based upon the failure of the state to establish probable cause for first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping. Again, you're not hearing the destruction of evidence there. Specifically, the state failed to present evidence that Mr. Wondra was anything other than an observer of what happened to Michael Vaughan. He was just an observer, you guys. Stacey Wondra didn't do anything. Nothing. That is what they're saying. Nothing. Do not believe it at all. The only evidence the state presented was Mr. Wondra's failure to report what he saw others doing with or to Michael Vaughan. Mr. Wondra is not a mandatory reporter and was under a no legal obligation to report what he was witnessing, and therefore neither mens rea nor actus rea has been established linking Mr. Wondra to the charges of first-degree murder or second-degree kidnapping. So basically he's saying, okay, the state did prove that he destroyed evidence. Yeah, all that evidence that would have been used against him for the murder and kidnapping of Michael Vaughan, right? B, standard of review. Probable cause is the possession of information that would lead a person of ordinary care and procedure to believe or entertain an honest and strong presumption that an individual who was placed under arrest is guilty for a crime. And then it gives a bunch of Idaho codes, which we're just going to ignore these codes going forth, but I will explain them to you now. These codes are just examples in other cases in which the defense is using to basically, make what they're saying strong, to make an argument. The legal standard applicable to a finding of probable cause at a preliminary hearing does not require the state to prove the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Rather, the state needs to show that a crime was committed and that there is probable cause to believe the defendant committed it. A finding of probable cause must be based upon substantial evidence as to every material element of the offense charged. This requirement may be satisfied through circumstantial evidence and reasonable inferences to be drawn from that evidence by the committing magistrate. A reviewing court will not substitute its judgment for that of the magistrate as to the weight of the evidence. The decision of a magistrate that there exists probable cause to hold a defendant to answer before the district court should be overturned only on a clear showing that the committing magistrate abused its discretion. When reviewing an alleged abuse of discretion, this court reviews 4 elements. Whether the trial court, number 1, correctly perceived the issue as one of discretion. 2, acted within the outer boundaries of its discretion. 3, acted consistently with the legal standards applicable to the specific choices available to it. And 4, reached its decision by the exercise of reason, with a bunch more Idaho codes. The Idaho Code 19-815A makes it clear that if the district judge finds the magistrate has held the defendant to answer without reasonable or probable cause to believe that the defendant has committed the crime for which he has or was held to answer, or finds that no public offense has been committed, he shall dismiss the complaint, commitment, or information and order the defendant discharged. Let me clear my throat, take a little sip here. Okay. C. Let me just look over on chat with my phone real quick. Miss Demeter is here. Thank you for coming. Anna Brown, Chaos Mama. Thank you guys all. Dukes is in the house. Clever Phase. Thank you guys all for coming. Katie. Yeah. Wow, that's unbelievable. He's guilty. Yeah. Like I said, this is going to piss some people off. C, the magistrate court erred when it found probable cause that Mr. Wondra was involved in the kidnapping and presumed murder of Michael Vaughan. My kitty's hungry. He's meowing in the background. And his daddy just came home from work, so he's being very vocal right now. There was insufficient evidence presented at the preliminary hearing to support a finding of probable cause for the offense, first-degree murder or second-degree kidnapping. At a preliminary hearing, the state is required to present evidence upon every material element of the offense charged. The state presents its theory of the charges both through argument and by the complaint filed, and then the magistrate examines the charges from the state along with the evidence presented to determine whether a public offense has been committed and if there is probable or sufficient cause to believe that the defendant committed such offense. Pursuant to count 1, the state alleges that Mr. Wondra, on or about the 27th day of July 2021, during the perpetration of a kidnapping, killed Michael Vaughan. The criminal information was filed March 18th of 2026. The relevant portion of Idaho Code defines murder as the unlawful killing of a human being. Another Idaho Code defines degrees of murder of what is deemed felony murder in sub D as any murder committed in the perpetration of or attempted to perpetrate aggravated battery on a child under the age of 12 years of age, arson, can't use that word, RAPE, robbery, burglary, kidnapping is murder in the first degree. The relevant portion of Idaho codes defines kidnapping as anyone who leads, takes, entices away, or detains a child under the age of 16 years old with intent to keep or conceal it from its custodial parent, guardian, or other person having lawful care or control thereof. And don't forget, yesterday at the end of the live, I did play a clip from the judge after closing arguments, and he said that he believed that Stacey Wondra was, in fact, part of aiding and abetting, enticing, detaining a child under the age with the intent to conceal from custodial parents. So the judge did believe that there was probable cause based off of Stacey Wondra's own words, because although he's saying he didn't participate, he saw everything and he continued to make the decision to play along with what everything they were doing, including getting in the truck and driving Michael to Kuna. He could have called 911. He could have put a stop to it all, but he continued to play in these roles, in these acts of hiding Michael Vaughan. Now we're going to go over the preliminary hearing in day 1, 2, and 3. They put very specific things here that they heard or saw that they're trying to point out. The defense is trying to point out and make sense in their own mind of what they believe happened. So here we go with that. conspiracy during or after a crime at least, and Anna Brown says. Chaos Mama says that Chad and Lori both went down for conspiracy. These guys can as well. I truly believe that. Shelley Clean is in the house. Lying after the facts makes Stacey Wondra at the least an accessory. Exactly. He's trying to set up a deal. Misdemeanor. Ding, 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 ding. You're absolutely right. Stacey Wondra wants to make a deal to take these two things off of the table, plead guilty to destruction of evidence, and then go to court when Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon are arrested and testify against them in court. Be a witness. Stacey Wondra believes so much that he's going to get out of all of this that he is making plans to move to Montana with a girl named Sam and another man. I'm not joking, you guys. He's making plans to move. Okay, so preliminary hearing, day 1. Let me get another sip here. Excuse me for a second because my nose is running. Okay. The evidence induced at the preliminary hearing is that on July 27, 2021, 5-year-old Michael Vaughan lived with his parents, Brandy and Tyler Vaughan, babysitter Aria Vaughan, which is Buggy, 2 step siblings, Ben and Kiara, and parental grandfather, Bob Vaughan, at 911 Southwest 9th Street, Exhibit A, PH, and then it gives the pages. Tyler Vaughan testified that at approximately 6:10 to 6:15 p.m., he went to wake up Aria and saw Michael playing in the living room. When he returned at approximately 6:45 to 7, Michael was no longer in the living room. Talks about the exhibits. Tyler then testified that he turned the house upside down, and when he realized Michael was not in the house, he called his wife, Brandy, who was at work, and jumped in his van to drive around the neighborhood to look for Michael with another exhibit. Tyler also testified that Michael tended to wander around the neighborhood looking for other kids to play with, and that he had walked alone to the splash pad in the neighborhood. Basically trying to say that Michael wandered around the neighborhood looking for kids to play with all the time, which is just not true. He didn't. He was never unsupervised. And only one other time did he try following his brother to the splash pad before Papa was driving into the neighborhood and saw Michael and took him home. One other time. So, Mr. Defense Attorney, don't sit here and try to make it sound like this was something Michael did all the time. Brandy Vaughan testified that she received a call from her husband, Tyler, at approximately 7 p.m. advising her that he couldn't find Michael. She started to panic, so she left work at Albertsons to go home and try to find her son. When she arrived in the neighborhood, she also went to the splash pad to see if Michael was there. The police were called at approximately 7:20. Michael Vaughan was never found, and as the investigation continued, Brandy cooperated with law enforcement by providing items belonging to him that they could utilize with live scent tracking dogs. These items included one of Michael's shoes and a pillow, a blanket, and a stuffed monkey. Items were also provided that would likely contain Michael's DNA, such as toothbrushes. Brandy also testified that everyone in the home provided DNA samples via mouth swab. During Brandy's search for Michael, she encountered neighbors where the Vaughns lived on 9th Street that told her they had seen Michael on 9th Street at approximately 6:45 to 7 p.m. Brandy testified that Michael had never owned a big wheel tricycle, which would become relevant later in the investigation, and that the family excluded waivers to allow law enforcement to search their home and property, which they did on at least 3 occasions, including with scent and cadaver canines. Family executed waivers. They signed waivers. They had nothing to hide. The family signed them. Search for Michael in our house. Check us off the list. We're not suspects, and then move on. Because that's what parents do when they are not guilty of any wrongdoing, when their child comes up missing. On August 2nd and 3rd of 2021, Dustin Witt, at the time a senior sergeant with the Merced County Sheriff's Office in California, was recruited by the FBI to travel to Idaho with his scent-specific trailing bloodhound Banshee to search for Michael. Another exhibit. Using scent obtained from one of Michael's shoes and a pillowcase, the FBI directed Mr. Witt and Banshee to 6 or 8 different locations to determine where Michael might have been. But let me be very specific. Yes, they used Michael's shoe. Yes, they had a pillowcase. Yes, that pillowcase was used by Brandy, by Michael. On the day that Banshee hit in very specific areas Michael's scent, that was the day they used Michael's shoes. That's the day they went to the Wandra's house. That is the day they found the tricycle over the bluff when they hit on the corner of Red Wing and Meadowlark, where Dorothy Starkey said she saw, at the Wandra's garage on the fence between the Starkeys and the Wandras, where a sergeant, or where one of the Starkeys said that they saw the tricycle sitting behind the fence. So, yes, the FBI did collect those items, but it was the shoe. And we have talked about the shoe. A shoe is one of the best scent articles that you can possibly use when giving a scent article to law enforcement. There are chemicals, sweat, and all kinds of things that come from your feet into the shoe. Nobody else in the house was wearing those shoes. Those were Michael's shoes. The FBI collected them, not touching them, using gloves. And then it says Mr. Witt testified that K9 Banshee showed good trailing behavior at the corner of Meadowlark and Red Wing, the corner at which sits the home at 1102 where Stacey and his wife Sarah were living. First of all, that's wrong. Meadowlark and Red Wing. Stacey Wondra and the rest of them lived on Red Wing. Meadowlark, if you are, say, walking out of the Wandra's house, there is a small road right there to the left, but Meadowlark is many houses down to the right. So it isn't the corner at which the home of the Wandra sits. Just pointing that out. 1102 Red Wing, where Stacey and his wife were living. He further testified that Banshee cut across the yard, went to a fenced area where there was a garage, and generally showed interest in that area, like she was looking for a way into the yard. A detention deputy, Bryce Crimmin, testified that on November 12, 2022, while Mr. Wondra was incarcerated at the Washington County Jail on unrelated federal charges, he helped facilitate a FaceTime call between Mr. Wondra and investigating officers in an attempt to locate Michael's body. The information they obtained at the time led them to excavate the backyard at 1102 Red Wing, and that's, of course, the leaked footage that came out where Stacey Wondra's FaceTiming with Chris Madonna and Juanita Kelleher, telling them exactly where he saw Sarah and Adrian bury Michael in the backyard. and even describing the color, well, he said white or black garbage bags. Deputy Crimmon also testified that at some point he became aware of a letter that Mr. Wondra was writing to the Vaughan family. This letter was contained in his property tote in his cell. The deputy received an email that advised him of this letter and that it was to be intercepted. While Mr. Wondra was on suicide watch, Deputy Crimmon obtained the letter by going through personal items in Mr. Wondra's cell for the safety and security of the facility. End quotes. This letter has become known as the Thanksgiving Apology Letter. Deputy Crimmon testified that he intercepted the letter and made a copy of it for investigating officers. Excuse me. Which, why not? Why wouldn't you copy that and make sure that investigators got that letter, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. One of who was his father, Detective Bryce Crimmon. That's what the defense is trying to say is a problem, because he made a copy and he sent it to his dad that worked at another sheriff's office with the Fruitland Police Department. He went on to testify that he was instructed to return the letter to Mr. Wondra's cell, as it appeared to be a work in progress, and investigators wanted to see if Mr. Wondra would finish the letter. And that letter was put into evidence, Exhibit A, PHTR, pages 232, 234, 237, and 249. And why not put it back to see if he would continue writing it? What if he confessed even more? What if he, I think that was a good call on detectives to put it back. It was a work in progress. And here, Stacey Wondra, he's already talking, he's already confessing, he's already FaceTiming, like all of these things are going on. Why not? Right? Deborah Hurlbert, a canine handler of a human remains detection dog named Bannock, was deployed to the backyard of 1102 Red Wing on November 13th, 2022. After the yard had been excavated, she testified that Bannock very much pulled me to that property. Very much hunting. But while he did give a trained final alert, he was never able to pinpoint the exact location of where human remains might have been. So he did give a final alert. So he did smell that there once was human remains there, but he couldn't give an exact location. He still hit, though. She further testified that Bannock alerted in the far right corner of the yard. Far right corner of the yard is next to the trees that line the back of the yard where Stacey Wondra said Michael was buried, FYI. Julie Gibson, a retired dog trainer who ran cadaver dogs with Mountain States detection dogs, testified that she was also called in to help with the search for Michael on November 14, 2022. She and her canine Yodi were deployed to the same excavated backyard to search for the presence of human remains. Ms. Gibson testified that Yodi had a trained final response along the edge of the house close to an irrigation box. The irrigation box pipes and dirt from around the box were excavated and Yodi was redeployed. She did not alert again, but it was Miss Gibson's opinion that a body had been buried in that backyard at some point. It was Miss Gibson's opinion that a body had been buried in the backyard at some point. And I believe that's huge. She knows what she's doing. Okay? This is a woman that has worked doing this work for a very long time. Both of these women, which, by the way, 2 cadaver dogs testified at the preliminary hearing, but 6 cadaver dogs hit and gave final alerts at the Wandra's house. So let's just add that. She also testified that Yodi was deployed inside the home and in the crawl space of the home at 1102 Red Wing, but did not alert. I wonder if that's because Sarah and Stacey Wondra decided to start letting the cats down inside the crawl space so they could piss and shit down there, which would cause the dog not to be able to smell and detect human remains. And don't forget, Brandon Shirtliff told Juanita Kelleher that he saw Sarah and Stacey Wondra put the duffel bag in the crawl space in the basement of the Wandra's house. Investigating officers believe that a key piece of evidence in this case is a pink big wheel tricycle. Carson Starkey, a registered sex offender and neighbor of the Wondras, who sometimes did work for them, testified that he saw a pink big wheel tricycle inside the gate of the Wondras fence that is next to their property around the time of Michael's disappearance. That's where Banshee hit, at that fence in between their houses, exactly where Carson Starkey is saying he saw the pink tricycle. Captain James Horst with the Idaho State Police, who was involved in the search for Michael Vaughan, testified that on August 5th of 2021, he discovered a pink big wheel tricycle behind a subdivision sign between some trees located at one of the subdivision entrances. He searched the scene and alerted investigators at the time because he had previously been given information that one of the neighbors, which is Dorothy Starkey, had seen Michael riding a big pink wheel tricycle on the corner of Red Wing and Meadowlark, where Banshee hit. It was later learned that a neighbor and accomplished tinkerer by the name of James Smith found the big wheel tricycle over the bluff where Banshee also hit street, off of 8th Street in some bushes, and took it home to see if he could scavenge some parts that might be useful. He testified that this was approximately the week of July 2021, but he ultimately gave that endeavor up and returned the tricycle to the area where Captain Horst later discovered it. So here you have James Smith taking the tricycle from over the bluff, taking it home, thought he could use a wheel off of it for a wagon project that he was doing. It didn't work out. He put it back at the sign. That was day 1 of the preliminary hearing. I can't wait to read chat when I'm all done reading, since I can't pay attention to what's being said. I appreciate you all so much for being here. It is Michael's 10th birthday. We are honoring him today, thinking about him today, thinking about the Vaughan family today, and sending out all of our prayers and thoughts. We're all heartbroken for the family today. But Monkey, we're also fighting for you today. We're fighting for you, and we want justice. Monkey's army is strong. We're not going anywhere. That's what we're doing today for you, Michael. We are putting pressure where pressure needs to be. We're going over court documents, and we're laughing at Stacey Wondra laughing at him to think that he thinks that he will ever get away with taking you from us, from your family. Preliminary hearing day 2. Detective Juanita Kelleher, the lead detective in the case, which I'm just going to say right now, she told the defense and in court she was not the lead investigator. She was one of the investigators. And then she named who the lead investigator actually was. So this statement is not true. She is not the lead detective. With the Fruitland Police Department testified to the extensive multi-agency efforts to search for and locate Michael Vaughan. She testified that she and her law enforcement partners interviewed the occupants of the approximately 300 homes in the neighborhood, watched hours of security camera footage, and interviewed every one of the occupants of the approximately 220 cars that they identified traveling in that neighborhood during the relevant time period, when law enforcement and civilian searchers scoured the area where Michael could have gone and found no trace. Detective Kelleher testified that they then transitioned from a walk-off to a bad actor theory of the case. Detective Kelleher further testified that as the investigation progressed, her attention was drawn to Sarah and Stacey Wondra, as well as their two housemates, Brandon Shirtliff and Adrian Lucian. What first brought this household to her attention was security footage she was reviewing from the splash pad area. She was watching footage of Pidge walking home from school, and she noticed a white car, a Lexus, pulling into the splash pad. The driver, whom she described as a heavy-set man, straddled two different spots, got out of the car, walked around the vehicle, and tested the door handle on the passenger side. While he was doing this, he had his head up, kind of like looking around. He walked around the back of the car and waved at somebody before getting back in. She made it perfectly clear that she thought that he was waving to children. She said, it's funny that this defense attorney is saying that this way, because he got out of the car, he checked the handle, he looked around to see if anybody was watching him, and then he waved. And Juanita Kelleher said the only people that were in the park were children. So he was waving at children, right? Who else was he waving to? Why was Stacey Wondra sitting at a splash pad checking the handle and waving at children? Nice defense, leaving that out. She testified that she found it odd that somebody would pull into a splash pad just to check a door handle. Well, Stacey Wondra has said over and over again that he got out to open the door and get his chew off the floorboard of the car, remember? But he didn't. He just checks the door handle. Directly before a child went missing, it turned out that the Lexus belonged to Stacey Wondra. With this information in hand, Detective Kelleher pulled the neighborhood canvas from the Wondra's residence that was done in August by Boise police. And in that report, she stated that Stacey and Sarah Wondra were not home that day, which was inconsistent with what she had observed. Because Sarah and Stacey Wondra told Juanita Kelleher they were home all day. But that's not true, because they said they were home all day till 6 p.m. when they left to go to Cuna to tow back Brandon's car. Their alibi, right? Not true. Sometime later, Mr. Wondra, who was in the Washington County Jail on unrelated federal charges, reached out to the jail staff requesting to speak with detectives regarding the Michael Vaughan case. he wanted to speak to detectives regarding the Michael Vaughan case. There was a total of 3 interviews between Mr. Wondra and the detective Kelleher that were published at the preliminary hearing. The first on November 5th, the second on November 10th, and the third on November 12th, 2022. That was page 14. So we are halfway through. Halfway through, folks. Callie Dime says, note, inmates don't have private property or a reasonable expectation of privacy in the jail cells. Only authorized state-issued commissary items are allowed in the cell. Guards can search at any time. You are correct. Yes, you are. He could go in there and look at Stacey Wondra's belongings 1,000 times in one day and do anything he wanted to with them. Throw them in the trash, make a copy, make a report, anything. That was his job. Shannon says, but he lied, saying he was getting his chew. And he never gets his chew. It was all a lie. Rubber Dove, Evening Sammy. Hello, Rubber Dove. Good to see you. Thank you for the trigger warnings in chat. Thank you for putting up Michael's reward money. I really appreciate you guys all being here. Okay, taking another drink here. I'm drinking iced coffee, y'all. It's been a long day. I have read so much today, my brain hurts. Okay, preliminary hearing day 3. All 3 of these interviews were played in their entirety at the preliminary hearing. Under cross-examination, Detective Kelleher testified that all 3 were recorded in their entirety, and those present were herself, Detective Crimmin, and Chris Madonna from the Cold Case Foundation. Detective Kelleher testified that Mr. Wondra had been talking to his adopted mother, Tammy Johnson, and had been told that his wife, Sarah, was seeking a deal from detectives in exchange for information about Michael Vaughan. Mr. Wondra reached out to speak with detectives because he wanted the same deal as Sarah. Stacey Wondra was terrified, you guys, that Sarah was going to take that deal before him. He thought right then and there, Sarah's going to flip on me. Oh my God, Sarah's going to flip. And guess what? She didn't. But he immediately did. He flipped on all of them. He wanted to make a deal, the deal that Sarah made, he wanted out. And this entire story, in my opinion, is all lies and bullshit to accuse everybody else but him. And until Adrian, Sarah, or Brandon starts talking, they're all going down for doing what Stacey Wondra said they did. Period. That is what's going to happen. Because now the state is going to have a witness. Because he's confessed to watching it all. Do you guys see where this is going? And the mention here of Tammy, his mom. The next thing that I heard that they're going to be filing is to get rid of that entire FaceTime. Why do they want to get rid of that entire FaceTime? Because there's no detectives in that room. There's 0. None. Stacey Wondra confesses and admits to everything to his mom without anybody being in there. Trying to say that Tammy was coerced by law enforcement to get this information out of Stacey. Where was I? She also admitted that Mr. Wondra seemed quite agitated because he felt like he had given detectives substantial information in the first interview on November 5th, and yet it seemed like Sarah was the one getting a deal. He was also anxious to take an eye test to prove that he's telling the truth. Detective Kelleher testified that she presumed he was referring to a test that is like a polygraph. Detective Kelleher, just back up here. Why would he be anxious to take an eye test? Because he wouldn't be able to pass it? Detective Kelleher testified that on several occasions Mr. Wondra stated that he just wanted out, meaning out of custody, and that Sarah knows damn well I had nothing to do with this. Then Sarah better start talking. Somebody better start talking, because y'all are all taking the blame. She testified that Mr. Wondra's story kept changing, and they kept coaching him to tell the truth. Did you guys hear any coaching? I mean, I heard them trying to get him to tell the truth, but I don't think coaching is the right word, in my opinion. And that he ultimately told her about what he saw happening to Michael Vaughan. This is where it's going to get hard for you guys, because a lot of the stuff that Stacey Wondra is saying in this write-up pissed me off. Just saying. And trigger warning details. On the day in question, he heard a door slam and assumed it was Sarah coming home. He then saw her with Brandon and Adrian, and it was about 5:12 p.m. 5:12 p.m.? Really, Stacey? Doesn't even make sense. That Brandon had an orange or red normal-sized duffel bag with him. Let me see if I'm reading this right. Yep. Had an orange or red normal-sized duffel bag with him. During the interviews, Mr. Wondra told him that he thought Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian had taken the child to Ontario to sell or trade him to make money, but that he had nothing to do with it and didn't report what they were doing at the time because he was scared. He didn't report what he saw because he knew he was going to make $10,000. There was a plan to take a child, and it's obvious because Stacey Wondra is sitting at a splash pad waving at children, leaves there and goes and sits at another park before he comes back to Fruitland. Sarah and Adrian planned it, and the purpose was to make money. He also told them that there wasn't a tricycle earlier, and then there was a tricycle. Well, don't forget, in the probable cause affidavit, a witness came forward, said that they saw a tricycle in the Wandra's garage in the spring of 2021 prior to Michael Vaughan's abduction. Also, I've heard recordings. Kay herself, Sarah's mom, found that tricycle while her and her husband were out for a walk and brought it back to the Wandra's house and stored it in their garage. Detective Kelleher asked Mr. Wondra what the tricycle was used for, and he told them it was to lure him. She asked him if this was a guess, and Mr. Wondra admitted that he was guessing. He also told them that Adrian was the alpha in the room, but that Brandon and Adrian were following Sarah's lead. Mr. Wondra told detectives that it was Sarah and Adrian that did it, planned it, and carried it out. She asked Mr. Wondra if he helped them find the child, and he responded no, that he was pretty sure Michael was transported in the truck and that he had nothing to do with it. How could he have nothing to do with transporting Michael in the truck when he was the passenger in the front seat and Sarah was driving. Right? During the interviews, he also spoke in percentages, initially saying that he was 90% sure that Michael was transported in the duffel bag. So he was sure that Michael was in the duffel bag and that Michael was transported using the truck, but he had nothing to do with it? Does that even make sense? Oh, I'm getting aggravated. Detective Kelleher testified that based on information they obtained on Mr. Wondra, they believe Michael had been placed in a duffel bag, put in the back of Mr. Wondra's maroon GMC pickup truck, and transported to Brandon's mother's house located at 1125 Snowbell in Kuna. Mr. Wondra further told them that Sarah was driving, he was in the front seat, and passenger in the front seat, and Brandon was in the back seat. Mr. Wondra told detectives that when they arrived at Kuna location, Brandon, Mr. Brandon Shirtliff, I really hope you're listening, took the duffel bag through the gate to the right of the garage and appeared to be taking a path that would avoid surveillance cameras so that his mother would not know that he had been in the house. He then indicated that Brandon told him that he had put the duffel bag in the spare bedroom. Detective Kelleher testifies that the longer they questioned Mr. Wondra, the more detail came out. He eventually told them that he saw Sarah walking in the house with Brandon and Adrian, and that Sarah was holding Michael close. Trigger warning, you guys. She set him down on the right side of the couch. Mr. Wondra said he freaked out when he saw this, that he didn't want anything to do with it, and that he fled to his room. Playing devil's advocate here, you see somebody come into a house with a child and you don't have anything to do with it, and all you can think to do is run to your bedroom like a coward? He could have ran out the front door, ran to the neighbors. If he didn't have his phone, he could have used somebody else's. He could have screamed help. He could have done anything. But Stacey Wondra didn't do anything but run to his room. He saw Michael coming into the house and being put on the couch and ran to his room. Do any of you guys believe that? Do any of you believe that? Because I don't. I do not believe that he went to the bedroom. This had been planned already. And I believe he helped do what came next. While in his room, he heard duct tape being unrolled, and so he assumed that they were duct taping the child. He said he could hear him crying for his mom, and he was greatly troubled by what was happening. Yet he didn't put a stop to it, right? Mr. Wondra described how he came out of his bedroom and watched them duct tape the child, and that he had a stuffed animal. Although witnesses described seeing Michael Vaughan wearing flip-flops, the last time he was seen, Mr. Wondra told detectives that he was wearing tiny little tennis shoes. Mr. Wondra repeatedly told detectives that he was greatly troubled by what was happening and repeatedly asked Sarah, excuse my language, guys, what the fuck she would do that. He was sitting in his room freaking out and asking himself, what in the fuck is going on right now? And that he went to his room because this is bullshit. Detective Kelleher testified that Mr. Wondra told her that while Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian weren't necessarily abusive to Michael, they were telling him to shut up. When Mr. Wondra was asked why he didn't do anything or why he didn't report it, he again responded that it was because he was scared. When Mr. Wondra was asked which car was used to pick up Michael, he answered that he didn't know because he wasn't there. He was also asked if he had given Michael a toy, and he responded that he had not. He went on to say that he thought Sarah had given him a toy. He also told detectives that he saw Michael's feet, hands, and mouth duct taped, but that he didn't see the duct tape being applied. This toy that he's speaking of, a dog toy, a green dog toy, in the probable cause affidavit, their dog had dug in the backyard and found this little piece, a green ear in the backyard, and Sarah's, excuse me, I got a bug attack in my face. Okay. Sarah Wondra's mom admitted to throwing that green stuffed animal ear, this dog toy's ear, away in the garbage. And then he's sitting here saying that he saw Michael's feet, hands, and mouth taped, but he didn't see the duct tape being applied. But remember, he was in the bedroom listening to it all, thinking to himself, they're duct taping him. I don't believe any of it. At one point in the interview, investigators drew a map of 9th Street where Michael Vaughan lived and asked Mr. Wondra to point to where Michael had been picked up. He pointed to a location and said that information was from what Sarah told him. Detective Kelleher testified that she believed Mr. Wondra implied that he was there, but then corrected himself to add, from what Sarah told me. And I actually put up a short about that exact thing that he said, because he slips, he makes an error. And it, just like Detective Juanita is saying, he testified that Wondra implied that he was there, but then corrected himself in this location of where Michael Vaughan was taken. At some point, Mr. Wondra tells investigators that Sarah and Brandon came back to the house on Red Wing and tell them that Michael has died. And he's pretty sure that they buried him in the backyard because that is where he saw Sarah digging. He pointed to a spot on a map of the backyard in front of a line of 3 trees that are by the back fence. And did you guys catch the part where it says I don't know if I've gotten to that yet. Gently put Michael in a duffel bag? They gently put Michael in a duffel bag. How do you gently put a child who Stacey Wondra in the footage says that he was squirming and wiggling and trying to get away and everything when they tried putting him into the duffel bag, and they even had to bend his knees to get him to fit in the duffel bag. But this defense attorney says Michael was gently put in the duffel bag. I don't know if I already read that, but I just remembered that in it. That was something when I was reading this that really, really pissed me off. You don't gently put a child in a duffel bag when they're fighting you. There's no gentle. He pointed to a spot on the map in the backyard in the front of line of trees that are by the back fence. And that is where one of the dogs, we were just talked about this earlier, by the line of trees where one of the dogs gave their final alert. Based on that information, Detective Kelleher obtained a search warrant, and on November 12th, 2022, the entire backyard at 1102 Red Wing was excavated. There's exhibits and pages. Michael's remains were not found in the backyard. Nope, because Brandon Shirtliff moved Michael to the unknown location and still refuses to this day not to give that location to law enforcement or to the Vaughan family. Who's the coward now? Brandon. It's your birthday today, and I hope it sucks. I hope you're super, super stressed out, and I hope you can enjoy any of your birthdays knowing that you share the same birthday as Michael, knowing what you did to him, what you helped Sarah, Adrian, and Stacey do. I hope you're having like the shittiest birthday ever. I hope everything goes wrong today and for the rest of your life. Detective Kelleher testified that Sarah was known to drive a blue Toyota Corolla registered to Sarah and her adopted father, Ed Ramsey. Canine units were deployed to that car but did not alert. There was also a 2024 white Lexus registered to Sarah and Stacey Wondra, and a cadaver dog alerted on that car. Well, that doesn't make sense. Looks like they got their times wrong here. There was also a 2024 white Lexus registered to Sarah and Stacey. First of all, a 2024. Michael Vaughan was abducted in 2021 defense. Yeah, the year of that car is wrong. Because that is just 2 years ago. How could a cadaver dog hit on a 2024 Lexus? If it was used to either A, move Michael from the backyard to an unknown location, or to move Michael from Kuna to Fruitland to bury him in the backyard. But a cadaver dog alerted on their white Lexus. The same Lexus that Stacey Wondra was driving that day at the splash pad in another park. Although Detective Kelleher is the lead detective on the case, no, she's not, she could not say whether any further follow-up investigation or testing was conducted or that car based on the cadaver dog's response, but did admit that if such testing had been done and yielded any evidence, she certainly would have known about it. She did acknowledge that a piece was cut out of one of the seats, but she didn't believe anything of evidentiary value was discovered. I never caught that before. So there was a piece cut out on the seats, okay, of the Lexus. Wow. Wonder what that was. Anyway, sorry, you guys. I just never heard that before. With information from Mr. Wondra that Michael may have been transported to Kuna in the bed of the maroon GMC Sierra pickup truck, Detective Kelleher testified that they took that information very seriously, and they gave the entire truck to Idaho State Police Forensic Lab for them to conduct evidentiary testing. They located a piece of duct tape in a post hole on the driver's side of the pickup bed where Mr. Wondra indicated the duffel bag was placed. Detective Kelleher testified that she left that investigation to the expert, but admitted that if anything of evidentiary value had been found, she would have been notified. Since she was never notified, she assumes nothing of evidentiary value was found in the truck. Detective Kelleher testified that she interviewed Brandon's mother, Tina Marill, at her residence at 1125 Snowbell in Kuna, but that she was not very helpful or cooperative She went on to testify that while she was in the house interviewing Miss Muriel's detective, Crimin was outside in the yard with Julie Gibson and her cadaver dog Yodi, and that Yodi alerted somewhere in the yard next to like an AC vent. But nothing of evidential value was found in her house or yard. Yet cadaver dogs did hit at their house. When pressed, Detective Kelleher admitted that K-9 units were deployed in the Wandra's home at 1102 Red Wing, but did not alert. She also admitted that Ada County forensic units searched the house and collected numerous items, but nothing of evidential value was discovered, although she believes Michael Vaughan was in the home. Detective Kelleher testified that nothing of sufficient evidential value was found in electronic media, such as emails, voicemails, or text. Neither was any incriminating discovered in any relevant social media accounts. Well, that's because all of the physical evidence was destroyed by Stacey Wondra and the others. They even deleted social media accounts during that time. Detective Kelleher also testified that they obtained Michael's DNA as well as DNA from all members of the family. She acknowledged that despite their best efforts, there is no DNA evidence of any kind that connects Stacey Wondra to Michael Vaughan. During the hours of interviews, Mr. Wondra repeatedly told detectives that he saw Sarah, Brandon, and Sarah, Brandon, and Adrian doing, and what he surmised happened to Michael based on what he saw. He repeatedly denied having anything to do with taking Michael or his presumed death. When pressed on that, Detective Kelleher testified he stated that he fixed the truck in order for them to leave with Michael. If we wouldn't have fixed the truck, I don't believe they would have left with Michael. This, however, is incorrect. In the interviews, Mr. Wondra never states that he fixed the truck so they could leave with Michael. How many times have you guys heard Stacey Wondra say that they stopped on the side of the road to put in power steering fluid? I mean, come on. Did they even need to put in power steering fluid? Did he put in power steering fluid? In fact, the truck was operational and is seen on video leaving the neighborhood at 7:08 p.m. Mr. Wondra told Detective Kelleher that they had left in the truck but stopped at Southwest 8th Street. And I hope you're listening, Mr. Brandon Shirtliff. Stopped at Southwest 8th Street in Arizona. He believed they stopped so that Brandon could check and see if Michael was still alive. After this brief stop, they continued to Brandon's mother's house in Cuna. Mr. Wondra told detectives that he topped off the brake fluid in the truck while they were stopped, but he never told them that he fixed the truck so they could accomplish the purpose of taking Michael Vaughan to Cuna. First of all, it was never brake fluid. It was always power steering fluid. And now he's saying pulling over to the side of the road so that Brandon can check if Michael was still alive. This is an interpretive exploitation of Mr. Wondra's words by Detective Kelleher. Oh, wow. Detective Kelleher admitted on cross-examination that she attempted to use Mr. Wondra's adopted mother, Tamara, to get more information out of him. This is, in essence, a confront phone call where Miss Johnson, at the behest, whatever, of Detective Kelleher, is trying to get Mr. Wondra to confess to having a role in these events. Mr. Wondra and his mother then connect on a FaceTime call that is recorded. His mother tells him that he must be sorry for his part, that you have to be a man. Mr. Wondra is crying and he is saying sorry. His mother asked him if he confessed to his part in it, and Mr. Wondra tells her that he didn't want anything to do with it. He reiterated that Sarah accidentally killed Michael. He thinks Michael died from suffocation from being in a duffel bag. He tells his mother again that he had nothing to do with it. He tells her it was Sarah and Adrian, and that he thinks Sarah was trying to appease him with a child. He goes on to tell his mother that he was out of the loop on everything. Really? Is that why you were at a splash pad earlier in the day waving at kids, Stacey? Really? Is that why you went to another park that day? You guys were all out scouting for children. Detective Kelleher admits that this is consistent with everything he has told Detective Kelleher in his interviews. Alleged confession. In sum, 10 witnesses testified for the prosecution at the preliminary hearing, and not one of them can testify with certainty to what has happened to Michael Vaughan, and he has never been found. We know that he disappeared on July 27, 2021, and that he is presumed to be dead. Beyond that, there is simply no evidence. The entirety of substantiative information presented at the preliminary hearing came from Detective Juanita Kelleher and the hours of interrogation of Stacey Wondra. Oh, now he's calling it an interrogation. Really? Over 3 separate interviews at the Washington County Jail. In those interviews, Mr. Wondra told many different versions of events, and the story he told shifted with every telling. Yeah, that's right, because Stacey Wondra is a habitual liar. If anything that Mr. Wondra said is to be believed, and his statements to law enforcement are the keystone to the prosecution's case, Sarah Wondra, Adrian Lucien, and Brandon Shurtleff entered the Wondra's house with Sarah holding Michael. She sat him down on the couch. Stunned and alarmed, Mr. Wondra retreated to his bedroom because he wanted nothing to do with what was happening. While in the bedroom, he heard Michael calling for his mother and others urging him to be quiet. Then Mr. Wondra heard the sound of duct tape being unrolled and assumed they were duct taping Michael. As the story shifts and evolves, he later says that he came out of the bedroom and saw Michael's hands, feet, and mouth duct taped. Mr. Wondra tells detectives that in a continued state of freaking out, he retreated once again to his bedroom. Later in his interviews, he claims to have seen them gently lowering Michael into Brandon Shurtleff's red or orange duffel bag. Gently. Really? You know Michael was fighting. Michael was fighting for his life as they tried stuffing him in that duffel bag. 1000%. He retracted to his bedroom again. The story is all rather nebulous, but at some point, Sarah and Brandon decide to go to Brandon's mother's house in Kuna to tow a vehicle that Brandon wants back to the Wondras. So here he is saying that Sarah and Brandon decide to go to Brandon's mother's house, even though Brandon said that he talked to Stacey Wondra, it's in the probable cause affidavit, about an alibi, creating one, and that the tow from Kuna to Fruitland would be their alibi. But here, it's Sarah and Brandon's idea to go to Kuna. I really hope you're listening, Brandon. Mr. Wondra presumes that Michael is still in a duffel bag. and it seems to be heavy and lumpy, but there's no movement that he can see. Brandon puts the duffel bag in the back of the bed of the maroon GMC truck and sits in the back seat while Sarah drives and Mr. Wondra is in the front passenger seat. Mr. Wondra says he is the MC and manages the music, which is believed to be blasted because Michael's screaming in the back of the duffel bag. So they're trying to play loud music to, make sure nobody can hear that. And Brandon, Stacey Wondra says that you put the duffel bag in the back of the GMC truck. At some point, they stop and Brandon gets out of the truck. Mr. Wondra presumes that he's checking to see if Michael is still alive. While Brandon is doing that, Mr. Wondra says he tops off the brake fluid in the truck. Brandon comes back and says Michael is still alive. And one iteration of the telling, Mr. Wondra says he can hear Michael crying and making noise when they stop. They've resumed their trip to Kuna. When they arrive, Brandon takes the duffel bag and approaches his mother's home in an odd way that Mr. Wondra says is to avoid security cameras. Brandon returns to the truck, telling Sarah and Mr. Wondra that he put the duffel bag in the spare bedroom. They then tow Brandon's car back to the Wondras. Hear that, Brandon? You took Michael in the house and put him in the spare room at your mom's house. Remember when you were up on panel, Brandon, and you told me that Stacey came into the house? Did Stacey come into the house? Because if he did, you need to go down and you need to go talk to law enforcement and get your side of the story out there real quick. Real quick. Because Stacey's trial is coming. Sarah Wondra is going to be getting arrested in October. These days and months are flying by, Brandon. And you're just sitting back doing nothing. Doing absolutely nothing to save yourself. Which I could care less if you save yourself. But if you have a different version of this story, you better get your ass down to Fruitland Police. According to Mr. Wondra, Sarah and Brandon come back into the house the next day and advise that Michael has died. So Stacey is saying that Sarah and Brandon went and got Michael from Kuna, that he is dead, and has brought him back to Fruitland. Mr. Wondra presumes that he has died from suffocation from being in the duffel bag. He later sees what he believes is Michael in a heavy-duty black garbage bag and sees Sarah digging a hole in their backyard. He presumes they bury him there. What's all this presumes bullshit? Presumes? Come on. He either is seeing it or he's not. Okay? Give me a break. Presumes that Michael has died. Well, first of all, he has said that Sarah told him that Michael died of suffocation, but now he's presuming that that's what happens? Come on. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm aggravated. Sorry for all the cussing. The scent-specific trailing bloodhound exhibited interest in the Wondras' home, but never entered the yard. With that information, as well as what they were told by Mr. Wondra, the entire backyard was excavated. Human remains and or cadaver canines alerted in different locations within the yard. That is, the two dogs who handlers testified at the preliminary hearing did not alert in the same locations of the yard. However, Michael's body was never found. Man, he's twisting that all kinds of around, right? 2 cadaver dogs out of 6 that hit in the backyard, and they are hitting on different locations. To me, that makes sense. It does. As it rains, scents can be moved around in the water, under the ground, or anything. Like, what we really need is for one of these cadaver dog handlers to explain to us how the cadaver dogs could hit in 2 different locations. I would love to hear that. But I don't think that just because they hit into... How do we know that he wasn't buried in one spot and they didn't like that spot? Because, you know, we've all heard that the dog was digging in the backyard and that they didn't dig him up and then put him somewhere else in the yard. We don't know that. Right? Or how about the duffel bag with Michael in it was sat down somewhere in the yard while they were digging somewhere else in the yard, and that's why a cadaver dog hit on it? Or how about the fact that that excavation box sat real close to the edge of the house, and Brandon Shirtliff says that that duffel bag had been put down into the basement in crawl space. Did that scent come from under the house near that excavation? There is a lot. There is many ways that you can explain why the cadaver dogs would be hitting in 2 different locations. And all of what Mr. Wondra's various conflicting statements, never once did he admit to being involved in anything to do with Michael Vaughan's kidnapping or presumed murder. Well, that's what they're saying. But Juanita said that Stacey Wondra slipped and that he changed his story about the location where Michael was picked up. How would he know? Did he help Sarah? Although the various tellings of the story change repeatedly, there's one thing that never changes. He is always consistent about the fact that he had nothing to do with what Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon were involved in, and he was horrified. Poor Stacey, horrified, really? I bet you Michael Joseph Vaughan was the one horrified. Horrified by what he was seeing. Can you imagine how horrified Michael Joseph Vaughan was? Seeing great big huge Stacey Wondra, Sarah Wondra, crazy looking Adrian Lucian, and Brandon Shirtliff all over the top of him, all yelling at him, telling him to shut up, telling him your mom don't love you. Really? You were horrified, Stacey? Give me a break. Detective Kelleher testified both on direct and on cross examination that she believed Mr. Wondra was involved. Her opinion, however, is not evidence. Mr. Duke, the prosecuting attorney, frequently referred to Mr. Wondra's interviews as confessions. Yeah, because they were. They were not. Yes, they were. His statements were wholly related to what he saw others doing and what he presumed happened to Michael based on what he saw. Presumed. This word's gonna just... These are present sense impressions. Present sense impressions. Not once did he admit to being involved directly with what happened to Michael Vaughan. If Mr. Wondra confessed to anything, it was to being a coward and not stopping what was happening or not reporting it. Yeah, Mr. Defense, because he was trying to make $10,000. Don't you get it yet? Mr. Wondra had no duty to report. Mr. Wondra had no legal obligation to either stop or report what he was seeing. He was not someone who would be deemed a mandatory reporter. Some professionals in some circumstances are required to report information they have received that may lead to great bodily harm or death. Mr. Wondra does not fit any of those categories. For purposes of the events that occurred during Michael Vaughan's disappearance, he was simply a citizen with no duty to stop or report what he was seeing. Really? With no duty? Yeah, he had a duty. He had a duty to a 5-year-old little boy who would have turned 10 today. Oh my God. I don't even understand how defense attorneys can write something out. I mean, I know it's their job to defend their client, but come on. If Mr. Wondra is to believe that he was a witness to, was truly offensive, if Mr. Wondra is to be believed, even his own attorney don't believe him, what he was a witness to was truly offensive and horrific. It may offend the moral or ethical code we feel we should have toward our fellow human beings, particularly a child. However, as offended or as horrified as we may be, and as wholly violative of our, I don't even know if I said that word right, you guys, of our sense of outrage as his lack of action incites, Mr. Wondra still legally had no obligation to act. State's accomplice theory. In his closing argument at the preliminary hearing on March 5th, 2026, the state argued that Mr. Wondra acted as an accomplice, sharing with Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon a community of purpose to kidnap Michael Vaughan. In furtherance of this argument, he cited 2 Idaho cases. And sensing the defendant was convicted as an accomplice of a burglary in the first degree, evidence induced at trial established that sensing and his passenger Kay Denson dropped a 6-year-old Charles off at a Taco Time restaurant in Boise. Sensing and Denson then drove around for 15 to 20 minutes. In that time, Sensing told Denison that Clark was the stealingest man in the county and that he would help him if he could to keep him from getting in trouble. They returned to an alley behind a restaurant, and Denson testified to hearing a metallic scraping noise in the alley, and that Sensing said that is the whole trash can. He has got the whole safe. They picked up Clark up and left. Denison also testified that while Clark was in the car, he had gloves and a pry bar of some sort. Much of the arguments in this case before the Supreme Court center around Denison's testimony as an accomplice herself at whether her testimony was sufficiently corroborated. The opinion does, however, discuss what is required for a defendant to be convicted of a crime under the accomplice theory of the case, the court stated. The court proclaimed the state of versus Gonzalez, 92, Idaho, that an accomplice in a person concerned in the commission of crime, whether he directly participates in the commission of the act constituting the offense or aids and abets in this commission, or not being present, has advised or encouraged its commission. An accomplice is a reasonable person whose willful participation in the commission of a crime, when the fact is established by competent evidence in the court of requisite jurisdiction, renders him liable to a conviction of the offense. Mere present at acquaintances in or silent consist to the commission of an offense is not, in the absence of duty to act, legally sufficient, however reprehensible it may be to constitute 1. A principal, an accessory, an aider and abettor, or an accomplice. An accomplice is one who joined the united with other, one of several concerned in a felony, an associate in a crime, one who cooperate, aids, and assists in committing it. A mere mental state of uncommunicated, constant, or acquaintance on the part of a bystander where a crime is being instigated is not sufficient to make him an accomplice in its commission. Some aiding, abetting, or actual encouragement on his part is essential. Stacey Wondra's conduct, even by his own statements, are distinguishable from the witness Denson or the defendant Sensing. To face accomplice liability, a defendant must be a person concerned in the commission of a crime, but direct participation or advising or encouraging is commission. Unlike Sensing, who knew that Clark was doing, dropped him off and picked him up, and admitted that he'd help him to keep from getting in trouble, there is no evidence that Mr. Wondra knew of, participated in, or advised and encouraged the commission of kidnapping Michael Vaughan. To the contrary, his own concern was his what is this word? I'm twisted, y'all. Hold on a second. Let me take a drink. Was his abhorrence, I don't even know if I'm saying abhorrence, and horror at what he saw happening. Further, such persons participated must be willful and be one who is joined or united and associate in crime. Sensing's own words and actions showed that his assistant in Clark's crime was willful. He was associated with Clark in the theft of the safe. Unlike here, there is no evidence that Mr. Wondra was willfully engaged in participating in a crime of a kidnapping or joined or united with Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon on purpose. He told investigators that he repeatedly told them to let the child go or to call police. Really? He didn't engage in any of it. He willingly got into the GMC truck and took Michael Vaughan to Kuna. He willingly did that. He didn't have to go. He knew that they had already kidnapped Michael Vaughan. He knew that. He had already witnessed them yelling and screaming at him, duct taping him, putting him into the duffel bag. He says that he's seen Brandon Shirtliff put Michael in the bed of the GMC truck, and yet Stacey Wondra still makes the decision to get in the truck and go to Kuna. Michael did not leave Kuna alive. Therefore, Stacey Wondra is an accomplice. He did help. He did help keep Michael from his parents by hiding him. He knew exactly what he was doing when he got into that truck. Brandon and Stacey made an alibi with one another. There's a phone conversation between Sarah and Stacey where they promised they're not going to roll on one another for what each other had done. And when Sarah's asked by police, in reference to what? She said in reference to Michael. That's when they were going to have her sign that deal that Stacey wanted. He willingly got into that truck. And I'm only playing devil's advocate here. In my opinion, he helped do everything. Helped kidnap, helped duct tape, came up with ways to do everything. Further, such persons' participation must be willful and be one who is joined or united. I need to roll up. He told investigators that he had repeatedly told them to let the child go or to call police. In his testimony that we heard, he didn't say that repeatedly. He told police, he asked them once when they came in, he told Adrian and Sarah, can you really see Stacey Wondra saying, hey, we need to call the police. You guys need to let him go. Hey, let's call the police because you guys have kidnapped a child so we can all go to jail right now. Really? No, he didn't. Mr. Wondra's involvement in what happened to Michael Vaughan was that he was present in the home when he saw Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon come into the house with Michael. The crime of kidnapping had already taken place, and he was not involved in any way. What he saw horrified him. To his eternal shame, as he told his mother in the FaceTime call, he was scared and he was a coward. There are not the elements of a crime in Idaho. His mere presence at it's not acquaintance. This is I don't know, people don't know the word, or silent or consent to the commission of these actions by Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon, reprehensible as we may feel that to be, it's not legally sufficient for accomplice liability. As outlined by the court, an accomplice is one who joins or unites with another, is an associate in the crime, one who cooperates, aids, or assists. Mr. Wondra did none of these things. Well, he went to Cuna and towed back the car. He was with them. Similar to sentencing culprits is another case in which the defense attempted to have a witness classified as an accomplice by the court rather than allowing the jury to make that determination, since under Idaho law an accomplice testimony cannot support the defendant's conviction unless other evidence tending to connect the defendant to the crime corroborates the accomplice testimony. Casey Madison was the witness in question. Madison drove Colpitts to the home of Samantha, where Colpitts shot and killed Fignani for allegedly having a romantic relationship with her boyfriend and the father of one of Colpitts' children. The trial court ruled that there was a genuine issue whether Madison was an accomplice or not and submitted that issue in the jury for resolution. The Supreme Court affirmed that determination. In Colpitts' opinion, however, there is a great deal of discussion by the court of what it means to be an accomplice. The court first pointed out Idaho Criminal Jury Instruction 313, which defines an accomplice, and it reads, drink. An accomplice is a person who intends to promote or assist in the commission of a crime and who either directly commits or acts constituting the crime of who, before or during its commission, aids, assists, which Stacey Wondra did, facilitates, promotes, encourages, counsels, solicits, invites, helps, or hires another to commit the crime. Mere presence at, acquaintance in, or silent consent to the planning or commission of the crime is not, in the absence of the duty to act, sufficient to make one an accomplice. The court also quoted State versus Scroggins, 110 Idaho 381, some aiding, abetting, or actual encouragement on the part of a person charged is essential to make that person an accomplice. Finding, aiding, abetting, first-degree murder requires proof that the accomplice shared the principal's criminal intent. Madison drove Colpitts to Fignani's house and drove her away following the shooting, but testified that while she saw a gun Colpitts' house, she didn't know Colpitts had the gun until she saw her pull it from the sweatpants to Pew Pew Fignani. Madison also testified that she did not know Colpitts intended to Pew Pew Fignani and that Madison herself did not intend to harm or have a physical altercation with Fignani. The court rejected the argument that Madison should have been deemed an accomplice as a matter of law, ironically quoting from Sensing, the appellate courts have previously rejected that a witness is an accomplice as a matter of law where the witness claimed only to be involved as a bystander but not actively participant in the charged crime, was convicted as a separate, distinct crime, or did not share the defendant's criminal intent. Like Sensing, Colpitts is the case that aids Mr. Wondra's argument that he was not an accomplice in the kidnapping of Michael Vaughan. The witness at issue in Colpitts drove her to the victim's house, knew that there may be a fight, and drove her away from the scene of the Pew Pew, but was also still not determined to be an accomplice as a matter of law. Madison was only involved in the Colpitts Pew Pew of Fignani as a bystander, did not actively participate in the charged crime, and did not share Colpitts' criminal intent, even though she drove Colpitts to and from the scene of the shooting. It can be argued that Mr. Wondra even further removed from accomplice liability than either Denison, Sensing, or Madison, because unlike them, he had no idea that Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon were doing until they walked in the home with a kidnapped child, the crime already completed. Mr. Wondra saw Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon walk in the house with Michael Vaughan, claims to have heard them duct tape him, to have seen his feet, hands, and mouth duct taped, to have seen them put Michael in Brandon's duffel bag and drove them, presumably with Michael still in the duffel bag, in the back of the truck to Brandon's mother's house. He did not actively participate in the crime of kidnapping, did not share Sarah, Adrian, and Brandon's criminal intent, or assist or encourage them in any way. Wow. Just wow. All of this is a mouthful. Interestingly, the court in both Sensing and Colpitts distinguished their cases from state a case in which Idaho Supreme Court ruled that the disputed witness, Randy, was in fact clearly an accomplice as a matter of law. The state charged Emmons with grand larceny for taking a typewriter from the station wagon. At trial, the state's main witness, Randy, testified that Emmons took the typewriter from the station wagon. Randy and another person took the briefcase and copier machine from the station wagon, and the 3 unloaded the goods and put them in the house. At the close of evidence, Emmons moved for a directed verdict based on Idaho Codes, arguing that Randy was an accomplice and that no evidence corroborated Randy's testimony. The direct court denied the motion and submitted the accomplice issue to, what page are we on? We got 3 more pages, y'all. The jury. Emmons was convicted and appealed. The Idaho Supreme Court reversed Emmons' conviction and concluded that it was inescapable that Randy assisted in looting a station wagon. Willoughby participated in hiding the stolen goods, and that the only local and reasonable conclusion was Randy was an accomplice, despite the fact that he took the briefcase and Emmons was only charged with taking the typewriter. Again, Randy's conduct in Emmons is very different than Mr. Wondra. Randy knew the crime was happening, engaged in criminal conduct, and shared Emmons' criminal intent by taking items from the station wagon and helping to hide the goods in the house. Mr. Wondra's conduct could not have been more different. He did not know what was happening until the kidnapping had already occurred. Really? Because he was at the splash pad looking for kids. Just saying. He neither promoted nor assisted in the commission of the crime, and neither did he counsel, encourage, or solicit others to do so. It is important to note that in the affidavit of probable cause for Mr. Wondra's arrest that Detective Kelleher prepared, she states that Mr. Wondra told her that he was only involved because he assisted Sarah in transporting Michael Vaughan after Michael Vaughan had already been abducted. Stacey claimed Adrian was going to find a buyer for Michael and was to be paid $25,000. Wow, haven't even heard this. Stacey claimed that Adrian was going to find a buyer for Michael and was to be paid $25,000. Stacey explained that he was going to be paid $10,000 for him and Sarah's part. However, after Michael's abduction, Michael accidentally died of asphyxiation, and Stacey, assisted Sarah in hiding the body and disposing of evidence. Stacey, assisted Sarah in hiding the body and disposing of evidence. Okay, so that's what he told Juanita Kelleher? That he was the only involved because he assisted Sarah in transporting Michael Vaughan after Michael Vaughan had already been abducted. Stacey claimed Adrian was going to find them a buyer for Michael and was to be paid $25,000. Stacey explained that he was going to be paid $10,000 for him and Sarah's part. However, after Michael was abducted, Michael accidentally died of asphyxiation, and Stacey assisted Sarah in hiding the body and disposing of evidence. Well, that's kind of huge. This is incorrect. The defense goes on. In an interview not played at the preliminary hearing that was conducted on January 22nd of 2023, Mr. Wondra, with his federal defender in attendance, talked with detectives about Sarah and Adrian scheming about kidnapping a child to sell for money, and that they were talking about trying to get $25,000, $10,000 of which he would give to Sarah and Stacey. But again, Mr. Wondra is telling detectives what he heard Sarah and Adrian talking about. There is no indication that he believed they were serious, and he never admits to being involved in their scheming. Further, Mr. Wondra never states that he assisted Sarah, Adrian, and or Brandon in hiding the body or disposing of evidence. So you're just calling Juanita Kelleher a liar? Stacey Wondra never told Juanita Kelleher that? I don't believe that at all. I don't. He's just making crap up to his attorney now because, well, he's making crap up anyway because he's a habitual liar. But trying to say that Juanita Kelleher is a liar, come on. She's a detective in Michael Vaughan's case. She has a reputable, reputation. She is a very good person. I met her at the preliminary hearing. She's actually very religious. I do not believe that she would lie about anything, and I believe that this is all BS. If what Mr. Wondra said is to be believed by his own statements, the most that can be said is that he had a mere mental state of uncommunicated, constant, or acquaintances in his role as a bystander. As the Supreme Court in the Sing Sing makes clear, the citing numerous other cases, this is not sufficient to make the defendant an accomplice to a crime. Actual aiding, abetting, and or encouragement or essential, and that does not exist in this case as applied to Mr. Wondra. The conclusion, based on arguments articulated above, Mr. Wondra respectfully requests that this court find the magistrate court erred when it determined that the state presented sufficient evidence to establish probable cause that Mr. Wondra committed these crimes of first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping. Therefore, this court should dismiss the information dated the 23rd of June 2026. This is the amended. And as you can see, like, we're on page 32, but there are what is some of this stuff? This is the table of contents. They use a bunch of different Idaho codes here. They have the certificate of service. They have the whole entire preliminary hearing, day one, the testimony, transcripts of everything. That's what the rest of this basically is. I have not completed reading all of this. I did get over 200 pages in today, and I didn't even get this information until like 10:30, 11 o'clock my time, before I even put up the thumbnail today for Michael's Live. And then I got so indulged in reading everything that, I put the thumbnail up late and everything else today happened. So, there's so much. I will continue to read everything. I'm not going to go through all of the transcripts, though. I was there. I heard it all. I want to just see if there's anything else in there of value, and I will talk about it if I see anything else in there important. I am hearing they're going to be filing a lot, so we've got a lot of court docs, I think, coming up a lot. Thank you guys so much for being here and sitting throughout all that reading. There's no way for me to share these documents. I would love to do that, but this is coming off of another link. I don't know how to do that. If I figure it out, I can share it. I ended up wasting a bunch of ink and paper trying to pull this all up, and then was able to, I have a created link by somebody else that's sharing their information with me, and I can't share that information with anybody else. But if I find a way to share this information, I will. It's long, as you can see. I love reading court documents too. I just don't understand everything, and that's my downfall. Thank you, Anna Brown, so much. I'm glad that you found my channel. I love having new members or new people here. That means that, Michael's face is being seen out there, And that's what we need. And again, if you're new here and you're just coming in, Michael was kidnapped and murdered July 27th of 2021 in Fruitland, Idaho. And today is Michael Vaughan's 10th birthday. He was only 5 years old when he was abducted. And our hearts and prayers are going out to the family today. It's a very rough day. And can you guys imagine? This is what Brandy and Tyler are coming home to. That is what they're coming home to, is all of these court documents. 500 and something pages. And if you don't think that Brandy Vaughan ain't going to read every single word, and Tyler, you've got another thing coming, because they want to know what they're dealing with. Even though she knew these court docs were coming, and the district attorney doesn't seem to be worried about it at all, is what she told me, they will be coming back from their vacation to this. And of course, coming back from vacation, having to deal with other drama too, because, you know, there's people that are taking this paperwork, think they know everything, spreading lies and misinformation and rumor, you know, making their own timeline out of all of the court documents, going live at the same time I'm going live, doing it on Michael's birthday, which is really going to piss other people off. Heaven has an amazing angel watching over his family. Happy 10th birthday, sweetheart. I love that. Always, every case, it's so sad. Under your scars, you're right. There's always somebody. There's always that one person or that one group of people, right? That just have to twist and lie and spread misinformation and rumor. It's so sad. I will never understand the mind of people like that. I will never. Yeah, they definitely do not have any respect. Definitely do not. I'm going to just go up. I want to see what everybody's been saying. Hold on, let me see. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I love to read court documents. Liard's here. Thank you so much. I would like to read all the documents too. If I find a way to share it, I definitely will. I'm not screenshotting though 532 pages. I don't even think my phone has enough room. My poor family, if something were to ever happen to me, they would go through my phone. Oh my gosh, the stuff I've got on my phone. Oh, I have to store all of my family's stuff in different folders and in different places so that I have room in my phone for my child cases. Under your scars, dogs hid everywhere. He said things happen. Expect items sold after the fact. Yeah, after the fact. He will admit to the destruction of evidence. Oh. Liard says, happy birthday, Michael. Thank you so much. And Chaos Mama, too bad there's video of the interviews. Right? There are footage of the interviews, and there are just some things that are so incorrect there. Thank you, Sarah, for inviting everybody in. I really appreciate all of my moderators for being here. Yankee Kyle's in the house. Good to see you. Then he was 100% involved. These people were so full of crap, right? If he had called the police immediately after they walked in with Michael, then he would be able to use this defense. But he continued to help. If he wouldn't participated in driving Michael to Cuna, Michael would still be alive unless Michael passed before they left Fruitland to go to Cuna. Thank you so much for coming in. He said they walked in with Michael, heard cry, etc. Liar. Criminals, all of them. Stacey admits to being in the places where much of the crimes were committed and continued to do so. Absolutely. Olive, thank you so much for coming in. I'm late but here with lots of good juju. Well, we really, really are glad that you were here. He's trying to say that destroying the evidence is all he was doing wrong. Destroying the evidence, why? You destroy evidence so that law enforcement can't get their hands on it, so they can't convict you, right? So it's basically an admission of guilt in my eyes. That's how I see it. It would be interesting to know more about this case. It sounds like in this case, she just drove her friend to her baby daddy's house, but continued to help cover up the crime. Oh, yeah, you're talking about, yeah. He drove to Cuna with the bag, in the bag. Duh, Stacey. Okay, let me just keep reading. Could the charges be lessened if he's only charged as an accomplice? I don't think so. I don't think the district attorney is going to allow them to take any other kind of charge. He admitted being in the truck. He should be charged in the crime. He drove a vehicle knowing a kidnapped child was bound in a duffel bag in the vehicle. Exactly. This is so aggravating. He should have called the police. It is so aggravating to hear all of it. It really is. Knowing is knowledge and not telling. F you, Stacey. Yep, I can see that everybody is mad. Court case Courtney. There you are, love. I'm just going through chat and found you. Law says he had 24 hours to report. Even if he didn't intervene physically, he still had to report it. I love that. You're investigating. You're looking up stuff. We've got a lot of other people looking up some stuff too, and we're seeing the same thing. Yeah, but he was every single place this crime was committed. He could have stayed home, not watched them dig, etc. Exactly. I wouldn't have been sticking around, y'all. I wouldn't have been sticking around. If I looked outside and saw that they were digging a hole, or they came home and told me that Michael had passed, and then they, proceed to go bury him in the yard, I'm out of there. If I'm horrified, if I'm scared, if I'm a coward, I'm out of there. What kind of coward do you know that's going to stay around while that's happening? People that are cowards and horrified because of something like that going on, fight or flight mode kicks in. You get the hell out of there. Some people freeze up, but I don't believe but that's what Stacey Wondra did. Look at all of Sarah and Stacey's violent criminal history. It speaks volumes. Stacey was involved in some kind of a pew-pew thing that went on in a hotel room before 2020, where pew-pews are going off and everything. These are violent criminals. Stacey Wondra's mom made him go to a facility after finding out that he had killed their family cat. Stacey Wondra has always been messed up. And whether or not anybody says that, he's got fetal alcohol syndrome, he knew right from wrong. Yeah, 5-year-old screaming for help. He'd be 10 today. Where's Michael, Brandon? I hope you heard your name a lot. Be smart. Fess up before Stacey drops you in the meat grinder. Right? Yes, he did have an obligation to act. They will file any motion just to see if it goes through. My goodness, what a waste of time, right? And money and effort on their part, but that's what they do. Yeah, you have all of the testimony by all of these people. Stacey Wondra did confess. I can't wait to go back through this live and read everybody's comments throughout the entire thing. I'm just so happy that everybody came. Thank you guys so much for being here for Michael. Again, if anybody has any information about Michael Vaughan's abduction, please call. Where's my banners at? There they are. Please call Fruitland Police Department at 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. No tip is too big or too small. Please make sure you make that call. Let law enforcement decide whether or not your tip is credible. There is a reward over $50,000 with any information leading to the whereabouts of Michael Joseph Vaughan, where he's buried. And you can remain anonymous. Michael Joseph Vaughan was abducted July 27th, 2021. We've been here today talking about Stacey Wondra trying to dismiss charges of first-degree murder and second-degree kidnapping, trying to say that the judge at the preliminary hearing didn't have probable cause, that the state of Idaho did not show sufficient evidence to prove that there was probable cause for a trial. Again, the district attorney isn't worried about this. This is just what happens in court. The defense has over 20,000 pages of discovery to go through. They're going to try to file anything they can just to get the extra time they need to go through everything, in my opinion. Sarah Wondra, another suspect, will be arrested, charged, sent to Payette County, just like Stacey was, from Arizona to Idaho and in Payette County, October 26th of 2026. Not very long away, and she will also be charged. Adrian Lucien pretends to be out of the country. He's not. We know exactly where he is. He's hopping from one homeless shelter to another. We all know he's a bum. He has nothing going for him in his life. I mean, if you got to sleep in a bus, Adrian, why not just tell law enforcement what you know and go sit in a prison cell and get 3 square meals a day? Come on now. Write your music in prison. Brandon Shirtliff and Adrian Lucien, you guys are mentioned an awful lot in all of this. You guys helped Stacey or Sarah Wondra kidnap Michael. You both had something to do with it. Adrian Lucien, Stacey saying that you buried Michael in the backyard. You came up with this plan to sell Michael with Sarah. Brandon, you went to CUNA. It was you and Sarah's idea to go to CUNA. You got out of the truck and you checked on Michael, got back in the truck and said that Michael was still alive and proceeded to go to CUNA. You were the one who took Michael into your mom's house, into the spare bedroom. That is what Stacey is saying. Stacey says that Brandon and Sarah went the next day after Michael's abduction back to CUNA and brought Michael back to Fruitland, and he had passed because of suffocation. So Sarah and Brandon got Michael the next day, according to Sarah or Stacey. We have so much information now on you, Brandon. There's no more running and hiding. We all know that you're guilty. The world knows that you're guilty. The world knows that you have involvement. So this not wanting to come forward because you're worried about what everybody's going to think is ridiculous. We already think. We already know. You don't want to ruin your mom's reputation? Too bad. It's going to happen anyway. Come on now. You know where Michael Vaughan is. It's time for you to tell law enforcement where Michael Vaughan is and get a deal. Because if you don't get a deal, Stacey Wondra is going to go testify in court against you, and you're going to jail for the or to prison for the rest of your life. If not, get the DP. And all of the suspects that are listening to another YouTube creator telling you that you can get off, that they don't have sufficient evidence, that they don't have this or that you're never going to be arrested, don't talk to law enforcement and all that crap, you're listening to the wrong people. You are listening to the wrong people. Grab your attorneys and go talk to law enforcement. Brandon, we already know you're a coward. We know that you're terrified to go to prison. If you are charged and found guilty of kidnapping and murdering a child, when you are charged, yeah, the people in prison aren't going to like you very much. Maybe, just maybe, you can save yourself a little bit, though, so you can tell the other inmates, like, look, I told law enforcement where he was. I did what was right and came in and told Fruitland everything I knew. Because you're getting pinned for all of this with Sarah and Adrian. With all of it. We know you're out there. We know you're listening. Adrian, I know you don't get talked about very much, but really there's just nothing to talk about. You're in a homeless shelter thinking that you're scot-free, and you're just not. If it weren't for you coming from California to Idaho and hooking up with Sarah, Michael Vaughan would still be with us today on his 10th birthday, celebrating his 10th birthday. You have connections to child trafficking. You have connections to gang members. You have connections to drug dealers. You have connections with all kinds of people, and you have been basically a pimp now for the longest time. If you wouldn't have came to Idaho, none of this would have happened. You are the reason why Michael Vaughan was abducted to begin with. You created a plan to sell him so you guys could all make money. And it's insulting the kind of money you were asking for a beautiful 5-year-old little boy. Michael, worth so much more than that. You cannot put a price on a child. And you know who was supposed to buy Michael. You were the sickest out of them all. Who the hell comes up with an idea to sell a child? Who does that? You will be arrested, Adrian. You cannot run and hide. Neither can you, Brandon. Soon enough, all 4 of you will be off of these streets. And then, what are you going to do? If you don't talk now, I bet you all will start singing like canaries as soon as you are arrested. Mark my words. I really feel like as soon as you know what's happening is when you're going to talk. If they arrest me, I'll say something. Is that what you guys are out there saying? If it's inevitable. Hope you know, Brandon, you're next right after Sarah. That's what's in the grapevine right now. The rumor mill, the talk of the town, whatever you want to call it. You're next. It's time for you guys to talk and go talk to Fruitland. Give up where Michael is. If anybody has any information, please call the Fruitland Police tip line 208-642-6006 or email findmichael@fruitland.org. Please give this family some peace and bring Michael home. Help put these 4 suspects in prison for the rest of their lives. Come forward with any information that you have. What if this was your child? You would want somebody to call in those tips. If this was your grandson, you would want somebody to call in those tips. Michael deserves justice, and he deserves somebody to be a hero. This is still an ongoing, active investigation. They are still searching for Michael, and we're Monkey's Army, and we're never going to stop. Mama Bear's never going to stop. The Vaughan family is strong now. Brandy isn't sick anymore, and she is ready to fight the fight, and so is Tyler. That tip line phone number again, 208-642-6006, or email findmichael@fruitland.org. You guys are amazing. Yeah, they'll find all of the other kids that Adrian's tied to under your scars. Thank you, Sam, for updating on Michael's birthday. We will get justice. Yes, we will. Brandon, Misdemeanor says, karma roots run deep and begin to rot. You're never going to find peace in yourself until you do the right thing. Don't rot. Give Monkey back. Quitting is not an option. It's not, Callie. It's not an option for any of us. We're going to continue to fight. Happy heavenly birthday, Michael. We love you. We're fighting for you. We're never giving up. And to Brandy and the Vaughan family, we love you. Our hearts, our thoughts, our prayers are with you today on Monkey's birthday. And I really hope you guys are enjoying your camping trip. I hope you guys have found some gold. I can't wait to hear about your trip, Brandy. Can't wait to see you do another Monkey Monday, another live, and tell us all about it. And I will see you guys on the next one. Make sure to click that notification bell in case I go live. Spur of the moment. And hit the like, comment, do all of the things. Get this out there in the algorithm. Please, please, please. We'll end with Callie Dime here. The truth always comes out. Michael and his family will receive justice. Yes, they will. And thank you, moderators, for being here. It's been a long 3 hours. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for being here.